introduction, and as a little introduction to this poem, I'm going to ask if anyone, by a show of hands, has ever purposely broken a window.
Oh, you got one.
Okay. Because usually when you break a window, it's a criminal act. And it doesn't have to be.
It's my house.
Right. So I did a renovation of a home, and I took my 9-year-old son with me because they were knocking down part of the house. And I said, let's break some windows. And he couldn't believe that, like, he was going to be allowed to do this. So we got some rocks, and the bulldozer is waiting to knock this part of the house down, and we just broke some windows, and it was a lot of fun. And I think I showed my son that there are different sides to things. So this poem is called The Old Boarded Up House. I broke a window in this house once, long ago as a boy. The window called to me because no one lived inside. The window lonely for eyes' reflection, imploring, please, break me. In that moment, I realized how rare to have permission, how rare to hear the window asking for the breaking, the window too lonely to endure. Somehow, I heard it. I searched for a smooth rock, something round, something right-sized for my hand. I took a breath and stood, but not too near. As I readied for the toss, I glimpsed my reflection, knowing I wouldn't miss. The rock scattering shards and the sound of the splash, the pieces gasping graceful, singing sorrow. I heard the voice of all of this, from my own loneliness, as I stood staring into the blackness of the shattered window, stood staring until the last bouncing splinter silenced. Glad to do the favor, a gentle breaking, I blew a kiss. So I have another poem, and I write a lot about Brooklyn, where I grew up, because the Brooklyn that I grew up is long forgotten. All these small shops, all these different ethnic families, all this criminality among the children, and a lot of poverty. So this poem, like a lot of my work, has just a glimpse of Brooklyn. And this is called A Pony Ride in Brooklyn. He carries the red box of plastic forks his mother gave him for comfort, like a rattle for his tears. His brother sitting on a pony, smiling, cowboy hat happy. The pony's mane and tail so long, so blonde, so thick, such saddle-studded leather, like Roy Rogers, like Annie, Oakley. The pony on the Brooklyn sidewalk, shoppers in shops behind, the shoe polish smell from the shoemakers, the sawdust rising from the butcher's open door, our storefront signage, Jimmy's Chinese hand laundry. Why is he crying? Because it is not his birthday? Because the pony is simply too beautiful? Because he wants to wear the cowboy hat? Because he loves his brother so? All this wanting for magic, wanting tremendously to trembling. I found this picture hence. My brother's face beaming, beautiful black and white. Long after the jacket in the picture became a hand-me-down for me. Recalling it instantly, so utterly fantastic. I put the picture back into its aged envelope, a mistake of great cost. The envelope glowing like a light that somehow became lost. Now only I remember the picture, the pony, our poverty, the peddler photographer so seductive that even my mother smilingly opened her purse. I was there, my brother and mother gone. Oh, what a moment. To live that bittersweetness again. What would I give? If only to courage to mount the pony myself.
Thank you. So please welcome next to the open mic Irene, who is one of the features next month.
Very happy to be here today, thank you. I'm a psychotherapist and I write a lot about my work, and so these are two poems that belong to that collection. How's the sound, okay? Okay, this first one is called Honey. Rich with food stamps, my grandmother roasted Sunday chicken. She in her one good dress, me her only guest, cloth napkin in my lap. Honey, pass the gravy, she'd say. Years later, a red-haired waitress tasked with training me smoothed the white tablecloth, then moved the water glass to just above the dinner knife. Goes here, honey, she said. Yesterday at the eye doctor's, the assistant put cold drops into each eye. I checked my phone. She grew close. Honey, you need to rest your eyes so they can dilate. I don't say the sweet word, but sometimes now a client will remember being bullied on the bus, or whisper about drunk dad hitting and hitting, or being scared alone at sleepaway camp, how she wrote letters and nobody came. She had to stay all summer. I'd look over, nod, think, oh honey, honey. This is called Last Client. Twirling her hair, the teen refuses summer school, insists she'll drive cross-country, glares at mom who rolls her eyes, silent. Later, lacing my sneakers, I think, she's so young. Then, you go, girl. Do what you want while you can. Nearing the end of my walk, I passed a foreclosed home, its tangled yard. Then 4 feathered hens seemed to appear out of nowhere, join me on the road. Startled, I shoo them, catch the gold eye of the leader. Red feathers rippling, she darts a look, nods once, and the others line up behind. I watch as they march up a neighbor's driveway, retracing their escape. The leader halts in a dark pool of shade below pines. Her followers dip heads, conferring. Poke around, except the smallest who approaches, jiggling her impatience. Her protesting squawks, insistent, bent on adventure, not unlike my angry teenager, speeding highways alone, windows open, summer wind blowing in like freedom. Thank you.
I don't normally read at the open mic, but I am going to do 2 poems for you today. And I run a writing workshop here on Sunday mornings. A couple people in this room are routine visitors. So, oh, here's the other one. I was like, where's the other one? Okay. So these were written off of prompts in one of my Sunday morning classes. And the first one is called A Prayer for Our Time. If I have renounced Catholicism, do not believe in God, but instead believe in an earthbound spirituality in nature, uphold that planet Earth is sacred and that everything in the universe is a manifestation of the divine, you are no more or less the embodiment of the divine, as am I. Or the monk, or the banker, or the landscaper, the CEO, the child, as able-bodied as any to hear my confession. And so I confess to you, as I might to a rabbi or a priest, that I fear I may lose myself to indifference, compassion, a vague memory, as empathy cowards in dark alleyways. I fear that I'll quell my outrage in time, silence my voice, accept my misgivings, and no proportion of repentance or reparations will bring me to the water's edge. Let me sift wet sand once more through eager fingers Let me sleep again unsheltered, humbled beneath the night sky. Allow me the grace to see the miraculous in all things. Forgive me my self-doubt, this incantation, this prayer, set afloat on a north wind that you, whomever you are, might come for me, to me, remind me I am not alone. All right, one more, also written at one of the Sunday morning, what we call Sunday rites, and the prompt was, what's stopping you? And the title is, What's Stopping You? When she asks, I smile, chuckle, knowing I am not interested in giving a meaningful reply. No excuses either about why I won't play. The list is long, changes from time to time, but the core reasons remain predictable, familiar, if you know me, how I think. Know how I have a habit of second-guessing myself despite a track record that implies otherwise, despite some level of belief others have in me. She asks again, as if repetition will win out, soften me, or catch me with my guard down. What's stopping me? I mouth reluctantly. Sleepless nights, though I don't say it out loud. Anxiety, childhood trauma, think it, won't say it, sitting silent. Smile intentionally at times. She is patient. She is always patient. Waits until I acquiesce. Pull up an old favorite, one that is true for most of us. Fear of failure, fear of disappointing others, myself. Fear too of success, though less so. Fear, I mouth, half-hearted. Fear of what, she insists. Of course she would want to know the details, the complex hidden behind a simple response. I sit silent, contemplate, a vein I'll have to open to tell her, tell myself the truth. All right, so Dan Kantak is a poet, artist, lyricist, photographer, and teacher. His poems have been published in small magazines nationwide. He's a seasoned performance poet as well as a writer. He was Connecticut's individual poetry slam champion in 1993. His poems and photographs display a love of different cultures and the natural world. Dan's writing is highly accessible but never simplistic. Most recently, Dan was featured as a presenter and workshop leader at Hay Memorial Library's 2023 Great Lakes Poetry Series, quote, Art Inspires Poetry, unquote, in Sackett's Harbor, New York. Dan's newest book, A Rumor About Shooting Stars, on sale here, was published at Parsons Porch Books. Parsons Porch and Company turns books into bread and milk by sharing its profits with people in need. Dan lives in Sackett's Harbor, New York, a historic village on the shore of Lake Ontario. And 30 years since we probably saw each other, he's driven all the way down from Sackett's Harbor to be with us today. Please welcome Dan Kantak.
So poetry for me has been a lifeblood ever since I've been a teenager. Back in those innocent days of my awkward writing, and people said, you spelled that wrong. I learned poetry, and I learned the heart and writing and looking at things. These poems that I'm going to read tonight are basically, they're from long ago and they're from today. A few of them will be about my father. As a psychotherapist, you will love this one, and maybe, and about nature and health. So let me begin reading instead of talking. I'll read one, and this is a poem called Wild Clowns. Actually true story. Why don't bears eat clowns? He asked me, his upper lip curling into a smile. I answered, I don't know. And with a giggle, he said, because they taste funny. And I sat next to him, taking his hand in mine. That is a great joke. Can I make an observation? Somewhere, someplace, sometime, a bear must have licked a clown to know that they taste funny. And that must have been in a circus, because in all my days I have never seen a clown in the woods, and I've looked for them from Louisiana to Alaska, and never glimpsed red suspenders and yellow hair paddle footing away in a honking rush to elude my camera. It said the wild clown's extinct. The lad gripped my hand. Why did they die out? Well, I believe it was when people forgot how to laugh and began to ridicule the ridiculous as having no worth. We pawned our hearts for merchandise, and being became a franchise, therapy and industry. Wild clowns eat joy, and the world starved them out. Oh, time was when they used to travel in troops and appear at the outskirts of towns to perform their slapstick. But laughter turned to chuckles, and chuckles to grins, and grins to apathy. And they wandered into the dark woods and painted tears upon their cheeks. No wild clown has been seen again, but they might be alive. So here's what you must do. Laugh as much as you can. See the ridiculous in everything. And each evening, put your joy in a bowl and leave it near the edge of the woods. And maybe, just maybe. So, I recited this one to Faith earlier because we were reminiscing after 30 years. And I've lived all over the United States, in New England for 28 years, in Louisiana for 10, 15 years, in Alaska for 20 years, and now I'm doing the Great Circle and coming back. I was born in New York State and back to where I am in my 74th year, right? So it's like, so this poem is going to be, okay. One I wrote in Louisiana. I was blessed to be a surveyor on a boat working for a geophysical survey company. With beards of moss, the cypress seem, a gathering of old men kibitzing. Egret white, their hair is tossed, a rookery of wings above what's mossed. In the guttural throat thump that they sigh to, they stand and watch the murky bayou. Blackened water cannot defeat those who've learned to soak their feet, nor sunburn down hot despair who wear egrets in their hair. Age seems a small pirogue, tethered to them bow to toe. When I'm old and moss hangs me, I hope to be that cypress tree. So I had, we'll switch here to, it's called Layoff at the Circus. It sort of goes with Wild Clowns. I wrote this one a couple years ago, but I remember the clown in my Wild Clown poem. So this is much different. This is more in these days of economic turmoil. It's called Layoff at the Circus. The clowns were all let go today. Clumsy clowns, juggling clowns, cross-dressing clowns, clowns with cotton candy yellow hair, paddle-footed clowns, clowns with squirting umbrellas, big-ass clowns, midget clowns, trapeze clowns, slapjack clowns. The clown boss canned them all, gave them each a 4-week supply of grease paint and a whoopee cushion. The circus band played oom-pa-pa, 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 as the roustabouts patrolled the circus grounds armed with axe handles, just in case some clown went wild with a balloon bat. The high wire artists looked down. The lions looked up. The two-headed man looked both ways. The elastic man put his head between his legs. The human cannonball climbed into his cannon, blasted himself over the grandstand and through the big top. His apparent suicide was not foreseen by the fortune teller. This one is for my niece. She's 47, beautiful woman. She's actually a therapist herself. She does adopted mother kind of helping people who adopt kids deal with it, you know, because it's really difficult. And she came down with inoperable cervical cancer about, I don't know when she found it, but 6 or 8 months ago. And she's just finished her last round of chemo and also radiation treatment. So I haven't heard about how she's doing. But she's from an uber religious family, so I am Unitarian oriented, so I'm a little bit more liberal with my dogma. Okay, so it's called Keeping Faith, and this is for Cindy, or Jamie. This is for Jamie. Keeping faith. Keep the faith near a box of Band-Aids. Keep the faith next to a cold beer and a telephone number of a good friend. Keep the faith tucked in the hem of your sexiest outfit. Keep the faith in its jewel case and all that jazz. Wrap the faith in lambskin for that flesh-to-flesh feel. Never freeze the faith. Keep the faith on automatic with the safety off. Keep the faith bookmarked on your cool sites list. Defrag the faith and run it as your operating system. Make love to the faith and please her first. Faith can relate to that one, I think, right?
I've never heard anyone use that phrase.
Keep the faith.
Yeah.
What if they gave a war? What if they gave a war and everyone went? Every senator's son and daughter, every senator, president, and congressman too, and me and you, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Muslim, atheist, Jew. What if Yale and Harvard went port to starboard, sending every scholastic son and daughter, and think tanks had to go to clean up after the slaughter? Oh, there'd still be war, but we'd know what for when we buried our brave sons and daughters. Piano tuner. I used to work in a piano factory in Rochester, New York when I was years ago. And I remember the blind piano tuner who would come in on shift and reach into the body of the piano and tune it. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So this poem is for him. I always admired the blind piano tuner sitting at his ebony workbench, tuning tool in hand to tension fine wound steel strings with ear to perfect pitch. His cloudy eyes would look right through the piano, while his left hand would find a tuning peg's braille presence in the piano's open chest, and his right hand tap a key, ivory key, for percussive brilliance. A piano is always tuned to itself, and so he was harmonic to the strings of her dignity. A maestro in dark factory of pianos, he taught them to be noteworthy. And at the end of the shift, red-tipped cane in hand, tapped his way home into the evening's arpeggio. This one called Reader of Rings. Trees remember more about the past year than I do. Rubbing roots underground, rooting whispers, noting tree talk in cellulose diary of recollection. They keep it private among themselves until they have fallen orbit felled. It takes a reader of rings to sort out lush from lean in slab ring bound spiral journal. And for me as well, I discern lush and lean years rooted and uprooted, remembering those fallen and felled in maple seed pod whirligig of rebirth. Remember the bright and burl of days, ice storm and water spout. Remember sun-soaked canopy of photosynthetic verdant green and bifurcation of limb and branch, day and night, and of them love made, love found, love lost, a tree-rig metaphor in mental trunk. So now another year has fallen, and the elder creature of my canopy whispers in his roots lush and lean possibilities of observation of what will burrow in knots and dormant buds the year to come. This one, I just did this one, and I had, in Sackett's Harbor, you may probably, maybe you are aware, Sackett's Harbor was one of the premier battles of the War of 1812. They had a grand tactical reenactment there where they had 400 people, reenactors, dressed as various, the Canadians and the British came with their red coats, and the dragoons and the frontiersmen on our side or whatever came there. They had cannons going off. It was spectacular, very colorful. It was last July, and I, as a photographer, I said, like, I'm gonna go and just walk among them. And when they go into the battlefield, and there's a huge battlefield there. It's, the state parks own it, and they keep it forever on a battlefield. It's part of it. I took lots of shots. When I got back, I said, like, these are really good. I'm going to take a number of them, I'm going to edit them, crop them, make them, and I gave them to the battlefield. I gave them to the curator and the manager of the battlefield. Well, she said, these are fantastic. What we're going to do with your donation to the New York State Park Service is we're going to print them for you. And we're going to install them in this rather large barn they have. It's a two-story barn, basically. And downstairs, they had an exhibit that's been there forever. They're going to do away with that exhibit and put my photographs up as an exhibit, as an educational piece for people who want to see that.
Yes.
So they printed some of these sizes here. And on the outside of the barn, they printed one of my photos, 20 feet by 12 feet or something or other. I was like amazed because I couldn't imagine what that would look like. And then I said, like, well, I need to write a poem about it because that's what I do. How do you write a poem about it? I learned so much about the brutality, the utter brutality, especially of primitive warfare. And I began with it, and so I was taking a walk, and I saw an archaeologist sifting with a screen sifter shovel, sifting. I said, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm trying to find musket balls and stuff like that. I said, okay. That was the leverage of the poem. Battlefield. Archaeological sifting screen. Fill, shake, tilt, empty. His foot on pointed shovel. Battlefield grid dig for musket balls, buttons, and bones. Accoutrements of dragoon and frontiersmen. Epitome and embassy of remnant volley. The detritus of pathos, passion's regalia, of the long rasp and rake of surgeon's bone saw, limb and stump pile pillage, amputation and pus fester, worm and grub librarian subsoil, bespoke of empire and revision. Flint and ramrod gone to ground, and sift of screen of slaughter's seed, C-E-D-E, and the glory call of war. Free trade and sailors' rights. Remember the raisin. Canada tomorrow. Pamphlets of the ages. This battlefield. Smoldering identity, legitimacy, democracy, in arduous struggle as America dreamt itself. Now the battlefield at ease, in score of Ontario's crimson curtain call, reflected sunset, horizon's different distant shore. Now the battlefield groomed and sanctified. What the lilac knows in her roots is the purple bruise of widows weeping. And the killdeer's high, plaintive call. I said I'd read one or two. Tell me when my time is getting short. So, this was about my father. I was adopted when I was infant, basically. Me and my twin sister were taken out of the household. My biological mother had polio, and she didn't know if she'd ever walk again or whatever. So, but anyways, my aunt and uncle adopted me. But this poem was a story about a story that Louise, my biological mother, told me about her husband who came back from the Battle of the Bulge. Remembering the Battle of the Bulge. Marble eyes, his left cheek twitching spasm, his dilapidated rocking chair on the back porch overlooking Skinny Atlas Creek whiskey bottle tipped over. When my father remembered the war, he became a rusted bayonet abandoned in the Ardennes forest foxhole. Shell-shocked sky of winter's siege, overrun no man's land of happenstance survival. He gripped his hands tightly, so tightly together, the flesh turned white. Mom said he drank to forget, but liquor had destroyed his short-term memory, and all he could do was remember. Remember human wave assaults and hand-to-hand combat. Remember strangulation crushing his adversary's windpipe cartilage like a sausage. Remember the smell of urine and the body's limp surrender. Remember the battle. I'll ask to come another time to read more, but in the months to come or years to come, so no problem. Do you have anything you would like to ask, or anything about me, or whatever? The books are here, you can take a look at those. I only have a few. That's fine. The one children's book is called The Homely Bear. Basically, so it's just a very simple kid's poem. But some of the photographs I took in Alaska, I used to illustrate the story of the homing bear. So I'm really proud of the illustrations of this, and as well as a really, really wonderful poem about the homing bear. Any questions? Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
There are lots of, there's lots of information about the Battle of the Bulge.
Yeah.
Did you get your information from your father?
You know, the only information I have from him was my mother's story about his PTSD that was so debilitating, and also the rationale of why is this man doing what he did? He had 12 kids in the family, and all he did is drank, but she never left him. She never left him. To the nth day, she fought with the government to try to get some money but because of his war wounds, and we all know that nobody comes back from war if they're not a psychopath without without damage to
Right,
them.
my father was a combat veteran, 2.5 years.
Okay. Yeah, right. So was he in the Battle of the Bulge? Or?
No, he was in the Pacific Theater.
Right.